Proverbs 22:28 says, "Remove not the ancient landmark which thy fathers have set." If you're like me, you feel like you're living in the twilight zone much of the time these days. For example, just this past week, one of the headlines was about the state of Pennsylvania passing a law against discrimination in hiring. Now, anti-discrimination laws are problematic to begin with. I don't like racism, and I know people of every race who are among the most hardworking, honest, professional people I've ever known. But how do you prove such a thing unless an employer comes right out and says to me, "I don't like white people, so you're fired"? But even if you support these anti-discrimination laws, where does it end? I used to joke about discrimination against bald people, and that used to get a laugh. But here we are in the twilight zone, and that law I mentioned in Pennsylvania just passed made them the 28th state in the union to pass an anti-discrimination law that says you can't discriminate against people who wear their hair or lack thereof in ludicrous ways. Blacks with afros, it used to be asked to keep them reasonable length, but now there's a group of blacks making a cultural statement by throwing out their hair so wide that it's as wide as their shoulders, like a big hot air balloon bobbing around on their head. And mostly white and Latinos, they want rainbow hair or wigs, or they color their hair and spike it several inches high off of their head. Others want to carve things, not just fun things or lightning bolts or things like that, but things like silhouettes of a woman in a bikini or political messaging. Some people are even trying to sell their heads for advertising space. No matter how ridiculous and stupid, even if you work in a professional setting and need people to look somewhat normal and sane, and you can thank the so-called progressives and liberals, Marxists, socialists and communists and anarchists and drug addicts for turning American culture into a clown show. And the same's happening in the church, but on a more serious matters actually. Wisdom says, "Remove not the ancient landmark which thy fathers have set," but godless progressives and liberals and other apostates are satanically inspired to remove the old landmarks established by our forefathers as taught in the Word of God. According to a Public Religion Research Institute survey took earlier in 2025, it showed that about 75% of mainline Protestant ministers, in quotes, support the murder of unborn children with abortion. And an even higher percentage, around 80%, support sodomite gay marriage, and the same level of support is found for gun control and socialism and all this garbage, along with an anti-Israel and pro-Islamist, pro-Palestinian position. And it all shows that the old landmarks of Martin Luther and the Evangelical Lutheran Churches of America, it's more of a sect, John Calvin and the Presbyterian Church USA sect, and John Wesley and the United Methodist sect, and so forth, gone. The old landmarks are gone. If you're an active member in one of these churches, I doubt there's any listening, but if you are listening and you are in one of those denominations, you should be ashamed of yourself. And you should know that Bible believers doubt that you're serious about any profession of faith you may have in the gospel of Jesus Christ. But this proverb is a call to action. Stand against Satan and his children who slither their way into our local churches and into our schools. And don't let this happen in your homes as well. They won't listen, but we don't have to go to hell with them. As Jeremiah 6:16 says, "Thus saith the Lord, stand ye in the ways, and see, and ask for the old paths. Where is the good way? And walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls." But they said, "We will not walk therein." End quote. Well, then let them go their way. But don't put up with any compromise on the old landmarks, and it begins with the Bible. Stand with the old King James Bible, sing the old hymns, and stand with the tried and true moral standards commanded by God and established by our forefathers.